Start recording. Stop recording. Button.
Hello, everybody. This is Darth Bane, and I know I haven't seen you in a while. I just record when I'm into it. But today I want to talk about Graphic Audio. Graphic Audio is an audio site that I use a lot to get some of my books. And they're very good because they have full cast audio with sounds, meaning every character gets their own actor or actress, and you get the conversation, you get the music, and you get the sound. And it's awesome because there are some very good books there, such as Mistborn, the Stormlight Archives, and there's even a lot of westerns for those who like those. Now, it can be on the expensive side, but it's very worth it because of the sound quality. Now, some of the books on Graphic Audio are regular Audible books, but when you listen, it's just one narrator on Audible. So the Graphic Audio, I find, is very superior. And today I'd like to demonstrate that. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because Graphic Audio seems not very popular. I just don't think many people have heard of it. Mostly people who have are those who work in trucks because they stop at the truck stops and they get the CDs there. So I'd like to spread Graphic Audio if I can. So to do that, I'm going to play a demo of a fight scene, and it's in a trilogy called Mistborn. Now, I'll talk about that in another video if people want. It's a very good series. It's one of the best. But today I just want to demonstrate Graphic Audio. Now, it's starting with the main character, or one of the main characters, Kelsier, is breaking into a noble mansion to get some atium, and now he's on his way out, and he gets caught. So, here we go.
He was halfway through the conservatory when he heard people from behind. He turned to see the study flooding with figures. There were 8 of them, each one wearing a loose gray robe and carrying a dueling cane and a shield instead of a sword. Haze Killers. Kelsier let the safe drop to the ground. Haze Killers weren't Allomancers, but they were trained to fight Mistings and Mistborn. There wouldn't be a single bit of metal on their bodies, and they would be ready for his tricks. Kelsier stepped back, stretching and smiling. The 8 men fanned into the study.
This should be interesting.
The Haze Killers attacked, dashing by twos into the conservatory. Kelsier pulled out his daggers, ducking beneath the first attack and slicing at a man's chest. The Haze Killer jumped back, however, and forced Kelsier away with a swing of his cane. Kelsier flared his pewter, letting strengthened legs carry him back in a powerful jump. With one hand, he whipped out a handful of coins and pushed them against his opponents. The metal discs shot forward. His enemies were ready for this. They raised their shields, and the coins bounced off the wood, leaving the men unharmed. Kelsier eyed the other Haze Killers as they filled the room, advancing on him. They couldn't hope to fight him in an extended battle. Their tactic would be to rush him at once, hoping for a quick end to the fight, or to at least stall him until Allomancers could be awakened and brought to fight. He glanced at the safe as he landed. He couldn't leave without it. He needed to end the fight quickly as well. Flaring pewter, he jumped forward, trying an experimental dagger swipe, but he couldn't get inside his opponent's defenses. Kelsier barely ducked away in time to avoid getting cracked on the head by the end of a cane. 3 of the Haze Killers dashed behind him, cutting off his retreat into the balcony room.
Great.
Kelsier tried to keep an eye on all 8 men at once. They advanced on him with careful precision, working as a team. Gritting his teeth, Kelsier flared his pewter again. It was running low, he noticed. Pewter was the fastest burning of the basic 8 metals.
No time to worry about that now.
The men behind him attacked, and Kelsier jumped out of the way, pulling on the safe to tug himself toward the center of the room. He pushed as soon as he hit the ground near the safe, launching himself into the air at an angle. He tucked, flipping over the heads of 2 attackers, and landed on the ground beside a well-cultivated tree bed. He spun, flaring his pewter and raising his arm in defense against the swing he knew would come. A burst of pain ran down his forearm, but his pewter-enhanced bone held. Kelsier kept moving, driving his other hand forward and slamming a dagger into his opponent's chest. The man stumbled back in surprise, the motion ripping away Kelsier's dagger. A second Haze Killer attacked, but Kelsier ducked, then reached down with his free hand, ripping his coin pouch off of his belt. The Haze Killer prepared to block Kelsier's remaining dagger, but Kelsier raised his other hand instead, slamming the coin pouch into the man's shield.
New from Geeks Plus Gamers. Petition for free resources. Step down as Captain Marvel gains momentum. Attachment.
The force of the intense steel push threw him backward. Kelsier flared his steel, pushing so hard that he tossed himself backward as well, away from the pair of men who tried to attack him. Kelsier and his enemy flew away from each other, hurled in opposite directions. Kelsier collided with the far wall, but kept pushing,
Gmail.
smashing
Now,
his
Netflix.
opponent.
Top suggestion for you.
Couch,
Watch one of our
shield
top picks for
and
you.
all against one
Gmail.
of the massive
Now, YouTube.
conservatory windows. The Haze Killer's desperate face disappeared
Stop
into the
recording.
darkness
Button.
beyond, and mist, quiet yet ominous, began to creep in through the shattered window. The other 6 men advanced relentlessly, and Kelsier was forced to ignore the pain in his arm as he ducked 2 swings. He spun out of the way, brushing past a small tree, but a third Haze Killer attacked, smashing his cane into Kelsier's side. The new attack threw Kelsier into the tree bed. He tripped, then collapsed near the entrance to the lit study, dropping his dagger. He rolled to his knees and held his side. The blow would have broken another man's ribs. Even Kelsier would have a massive bruise. The 6 men moved forward, spreading to surround him again. Kelsier stumbled to his feet, vision growing dizzy from pain and exertion. He gritted his teeth, reaching down and pulling out one of his remaining vials of metal. He downed its contents, replenishing his pewter, then burned tin. The light nearly blinded him, and the pain in his arm and side suddenly seemed more acute, but the burst of enhanced senses cleared his head. Kelsier whipped his hand to the side, burning iron and searching for metal. The closest source was a thick, silvery paperweight on a desk just inside the study. Kelsier flipped it into his hand, then turned, arm held toward the advancing men, falling into an offensive stance.
All right.
Kelsier burned steel with a flash of strength. The rectangular ingot ripped from his hand, streaking through the air. The foremost Haze Killer raised his shield, but he moved too slowly. The ingot hit the man's shoulder and he dropped. Kelsier spun to the side, ducking a staff swing and putting a Haze Killer between himself and the fallen man. He burned iron, pulling the ingot back toward him. It hit the second Haze Killer on the side of the head. The man collapsed as the ingot flipped into the air. One of the remaining men pushed forward to attack. Kelsier pushed the still airborne ingot, flipping it away from him, and away from the attacking Haze Killer, who had his shield raised. The ingot hit the ground behind him. Kelsier reached up, burning pewter, and caught the Haze Killer's cane mid-swing. The Haze Killer struggled against Kelsier's enhanced strength. Kelsier didn't bother trying to pull the weapon free. Instead, he pulled sharply on the ingot behind him, bringing it up toward his own back at a deadly speed. He twisted at the last moment, using his momentum to spin the Haze Killer around, right into the ingot's path. Kelsier flared pewter, steadying himself against attacks. Sure enough, a cane smashed against his shoulders. Kelsier stumbled to his knees, but flared tin kept him conscious. Pain and lucidity flashed through his mind. He pulled on the ingot, ripping it out of the dead man's back, and stepped to the side, letting the impromptu weapon shoot past him. The 2 Haze Killers nearest him crouched warily. The ingot snapped into one of the men's shields, but Kelsier didn't continue pushing, lest he throw himself off balance. Instead, he burned iron, wrenching the ingot back toward himself. He ducked, extinguishing iron. The ingot flew through the air above him. It collided with the man who had been sneaking up on him. Kelsier spun, burning iron, then steel, to send the ingot soaring toward the final 2 men. They stepped out of the way, but Kelsier tugged on the ingot, dropping it to the ground directly in front of them. The men regarded it warily, distracted, as Kelsier ran and jumped, steel pushing himself against the ingot and flipping over the men's heads. The Haze Killer spun. As Kelsier landed, he pulled the ingot again, bringing it up to smash into a man's skull from behind. The ingot flipped a few times in the darkness, and Kelsier snatched it from the air, its cool surface slick with blood. Mist from the shattered window flowed by his feet, curling up around his legs. He brought his hand down, pointing it directly at the last remaining Haze Killer. The remaining Haze Killer stepped back, then dropped his weapon and dashed away. Kelsier smiled, lowering his hand. Suddenly, the ingot was pushed from his fingers. It shot across the room. Kelsier spun to see another larger group of men pouring into the study. They wore the clothing of noblemen, allomancers. Several of them raised hands, and a flurry of coins shot toward Kelsier. He flared steel, pushing the coins out of the way. Kelsier felt a tug on his belt as his final vial of metal was ripped away, pulled toward the other room. Several burly men ran forward in a crouch, staying beneath the shooting coins. Thugs, mistings who, like Ham, could burn pewter.
Time to go.
Kelsier deflected another wave of coins. He glanced behind him. He had a few moments, but he was never going to make it back to the balcony. As more mistings advanced, Kelsier dashed toward one of the broken floor-to-ceiling windows. He leapt out into the mists, turning in the air as he fell and reached out to pull firmly on the fallen safe. He jerked in midair, swinging down toward the side of the building as if tied to the safe by a tether. He felt the safe slide forward as Kelsier's weight pulled against it. He slammed against the side of the building, but continued to pull. He caught himself on the upper side of a windowsill and strained, standing upside down in the window well, pulling on the safe. The safe appeared over the lip of the floor above. It teetered, then fell out the window and began to plummet directly toward Kelsier. He smiled, extinguishing his iron, and pushing away from the building with his legs, throwing himself out into the mists like some insane diver. He fell backward through the darkness, barely catching sight of an angry face poking out of the broken window above. Kelsier pulled carefully against the safe, moving himself in the air. Mists curled around him, obscuring his vision, making him feel as if he weren't falling at all, but hanging.
And that's graphic audio. You'll observe the sounds and the music and how they were having Kelsier, the main character, make the sounds of struggle and the enemies while they were fighting. I can do other scenes from other books. I just figured that this would be the least spoiler for those who read Mistborn, who want to read Mistborn and any other book. So I can do more if you want. There are some incredible battle scenes that graphic audio does that I can use to demonstrate. I'll include the link to graphic audio in the description below, and I'll pin it in the comments section. Thank you for watching. This is Darth Bane. May the Force serve you well.
Stop recording.